Hi, I'm Drew Saur, and today I want to talk about a slightly different way to do a self-assessment on your own skills. Now, when people think about gaining new skills, it's a pretty straightforward path. You pick the skill, you go find some training, you find somebody who knows what they're doing, and they sort of transfer that knowledge to you. Then you go practice, you get better, and eventually you're good at that skill, or good enough for whatever you were targeting. And oftentimes people stop there. They say, okay, I wanted to become a better coder, a better speaker, I think I did it. Now what's the next skill I need to build to kind of build my portfolio of skills? And in reality, that is really only half the equation. As we've talked about previously, career success is really based on two things. So the first is, what kind of problems are you uniquely qualified to solve really well? So you need to define what that is, which is effectively where the skills come in. The second half is you need to get the opportunity to solve those problems. So you need to convince other people that this is what you do, and if that's the kind of problem they have, they should hire you to solve it for them. And to do that, you need stories. You need to be able to communicate that skill to other people. And that's why I created this scale that I call the narrative scale. It's a way to self-assess effectively the stories that are told about you related to the skill. And again, a story, as you can imagine, is simply a simple anecdote where you explain what value added in the context of the thing you're trying to describe. So let's say I think I'm a good team builder. Well, then I need to have team building stories. So what's an example? Let's say there's a new technology that came in and my team was falling behind. They needed to get up to speed and there wasn't a lot of help from the HR training department or whatever the case may be. So I went out, I found a vendor, I figured out how to get a deal on it, I got some funding, I brought it in, blah, 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 and everybody loved it and they got trained and the team took off. Okay, that's an example of a story. Very simply, something you would tell in an interview. That's the most obvious way to think about this, is what would you say in an interview? Otherwise, in a network context, whatever the case may be. So story is the unit. And now the question is simply, how many do you have and who is telling it? So the scale is 1 to 5. So 1 is no stories. So this is you go to an interview, probably won't happen, but let's say you said you're a team builder. And I say, okay, great. Tell me about your team building experience. And you pause and you don't have any good stories, right? So something that you want to be good at, but you don't have any stories today, you would rate yourself a 1. If you have 1 story, you can rate yourself a 2. So the second level is I can tell a story. Hey, I have that training story. I want to be a team builder. I have that training story. That's a pretty good one. And I tell it. Do you have any others? Not really. Okay, if you don't really have any others, you're a 2. So 1, nothing. 2, I got something. A 3 is I have 2 or 3 or more stories. So I can talk for a while about my team building skills. I can talk about this onboarding thing, I can talk about the training thing, I can talk about the recruiting, I can talk about how I brought somebody in from my network. I have a bunch of stories that all relate to why I think I'm a good team builder. So that's a 3. And here's where it breaks, because the maximum that you can get in this scale, telling stories yourself, is a 3. Because what you really want is other people to tell the story for you. That's how you know it's resonated. That's how you know that people think of you as having this skill as part of your core. So to rate yourself a 4, somebody else has to tell the story for you. It could be your boss, it could be your peer, it could be you're featured in a newsletter, whatever the case may be, somebody else has had to have told that story on your behalf. Right? So that would be a 4. And a 5, which is ideally where you want to get to, is people tell that story all the time. Oh, Susie, she's a great team builder. Yeah, I remember she put this new thing in. She had that whole training program. She always has great engagement scores. She's very innovative. Everybody wants to work on our team. We talk about Susie this way all the time because she is known as a great team builder. And that's really the idea. How do you take this skill that you have, that you think is very important to your professional brand, that you want to be known as, and you want to build up the scale? So first, get enough stories that you can handle it yourself. In an interview, in whatever context you want, you need to have the base stories. And second, you really want to get other people to start telling those stories for you. And if you do, that's a really good sign that that would be a key attribute of your professional brand. And again, I always recommend people have those 2 or 3 things that they do uniquely well, and they should all be a 4 or a 5. So what do other people tell about you? And you can do 2 things with this. So first, just do the inventory. What stories do you have? Write down all the stories you can and figure out, what do they say about you? What skills do they relate to? And second, what stories do other people tell about you? Ask around, listen. You hopefully know these things already because it should have gotten back to you. But what you can then do is try to figure out, what are the unique skills that I think differentiate me, and work to build those stories. But again, today, this is really just about the scale. Get some other videos. You can check out some of the other ideas on how to grow those kind of skills. But the idea today is simply, this is a way for you to look at yourself and assess, how good am I really? Because the trick is, do other people tell your stories? And I'm sure there are some, and you simply want them to be more. So that's the idea. Do a personal story inventory. Rate yourself 1 through 5. Ideally, have a few things that you're a 3 on, where you've got a bunch of stories. And then work on getting other people to tell your story by improving your value, getting it out there, and get at least a couple of things in the 4 or 5 range. So that's it. That's the narrative scale. I hope it's useful for you. Give it a shot. As always, if you want some more in-depth videos, you can go to my website, drewsaur.com. You can sign up for my mailing list or my free Next Level crash course, which is drewsaur.com/next level. So once again, give it a shot, and I look forward to seeing you next time.